What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel here at Full Court Press. I'm your returning host, Kohl, and today we're going to be launching a brand new segment or a series here on this channel where we talk about everything that involves the NFL. Today's episode is going to be regarding this past NFL Combine, and we're going to be looking ahead and a little bit forward to the end of the video to the NFL Draft. I'm going to be giving my predictions for probably the top 10 picks. Hunter, my cameraman, he's going to go rapid fire with me at the end of this episode. But I understand if some of you do not like football or maybe don't like the NFL and are a college person, that's totally fine. But what I will recommend to you is if you would like to watch something else on this channel other than NFL or football, you can check out our most recent video with the bracket behind me for this upcoming March Madness bracket challenge. In that previous video, I go over my projections and how I think the NCAA tournament is going to go, what teams I think are going to get upset, and what teams I think are going to advance. And with that, let's get into the video. Now, before we start the video and get into the NFL Combine, we're going to be talking about whose stock rose after the Combine and a couple of guys who maybe hurt their stock. Maybe some people didn't participate in specific drills or measurements at the Combine. We're going to go over all of that. Before we get into that, if you will please take a chance to please comment any comments and concerns you may have or things you may want to see on this channel going forward. And please like the video and subscribe. We've got a lot of content coming out here soon regarding the NFL. We may even touch on baseball as it's spring training right now. And obviously our most recent video right now is really doing numbers for March Madness, and later on we'll also touch on some NBA playoff content as well. But let's get started onto the video. So as we get started into a little bit of an overview of the NFL Combine that just recently happened about a week and a half ago from when we're recording this. I'm sure there's a lot of bigger channels or bigger news pages that have already touched on this, but to me, I wanted to kind of do my own overview of what I personally felt about the NFL Combine, as well as looking at some reports that have come out about some of these specific players. So we'll go ahead and get started into it. I'm going to give 4 guys who I personally felt had rose their stock post-Combine, and then I'm going to give 4 guys who I feel like might slip in the draft a little bit because they maybe didn't test or perform as well at the Combine as we may have thought. So first off, we all know, it's all came out that Anthony Richardson absolutely crushed the Combine. He came in at 6'4", stereotypical weight that you want for a big quarterback his size. He showed off everything that you want in a franchise quarterback. He had the arm strength, he had the size, he had the mobility. Obviously, we all know that there's some question marks just because he hasn't played all that much football at a high level yet, only starting 1 full year at Florida and also coming in as a backup to Emory Jones when he was a redshirt freshman. I do think he really rose his stock as at the moment in time before the Carolina Panthers traded up for the number 1 pick, he had the Caesars Palace Vegas odds for the highest chance to go number 1 overall. Now, moving along from Anthony Richardson, if you didn't get a chance to see Nolan Smith run the 40-yard dash as well as do all of his cone drills, I do highly advise you to check that out as he absolutely crushed the NFL Combine as well. Now, Kirby Smart, his college head coach at Georgia, already said that he was one of the smartest players that he'd ever coached. But after he, as a outside middle linebacker kind of duo, ran a sub 4.3 in the 40-yard dash, we really learned how much of a freak in nature athlete that he is. So he obviously rose his stock just because of how well he measured at the Combine and how well he tested. Now, moving along to my third player that I really do think helped his draft stock was Jackson Smith-Njigba. We obviously have seen the tape from the Rose Bowl, the record he set in that game versus Utah. He didn't play as much this year for the Buckeyes as he battled a lot of injuries. I personally think they kind of held him out some just so he could prepare for the NFL draft. They didn't want to ruin his future by getting an injury. Obviously, he sat out the college football playoff semifinal against Georgia. But Jackson Smith-Njigba proved to us, we knew he was already a good route runner. He had very decent speed out of all the receivers in the 40-yard dash. His cone drill was the best out of all the wide receivers at the combine. I do think there is going to be a team in the middle of the first round that drafts Smith-Njigba that is going to be very pleased at him. They can move him outside. They can also move him in the slot because he's not a short guy, but his route running is so well and crisp that he can really take advantage and be a matchup nightmare inside as well as outside. Now, the fourth person that I really think tremendously helped their draft stock post-combine is Georgia tight end Darnell Washington. We obviously know Darnell Washington has the size at about a 6'7" frame, but he really showed off his size, his strength, and his speed at the combine. There's a viral video going around of how well he blocked a blocking sled. He completely dominated that. He benched really well. His speed was really well for a guy at his size at the tight end position. Obviously, we know that Michael Mayer probably will be the most likely drafted tight end first in this class, but I do believe Darnell Washington moved himself into possibly being selected at the end of that first round, possibly at the beginning of the first 10 picks of that second round area, which is very huge for him. We thought he possibly might be a big day or a mid-day pick, like a second or third day pick, as we still thought he was raw talented, but we knew the upside was always there. Now, moving along to some guys that I think their draft stock might possibly slip from when they were originally projected before the combine. We'll start off with the most obvious. It's Jalen Carter. It's not anything that he did or did not do at the combine. It's just the off-the-field issues he's dealing with now. I mean, a lot of people had Jalen Carter predicted to be the number 1 overall pick to the Chicago Bears before they traded the pick to Carolina. Jalen Carter now dealing with some off-the-field issues with his reckless driving incident. I do think that he is so talented that a team in the top 5 should still take him because he's worth that risk. But obviously he is the big elephant in the room of someone who probably his draft stock is not as high as it originally was. Now, second, I will have to say is Will Levis. Will Levis was a guy who already had some question marks coming into this class, but because of his size and frame, a lot of teams were willing to take that chance on him because he fits the mold and the breed of a stereotypical successful NFL quarterback in today's day and age. Big arm, great size, good enough mobility, but he, like Anthony Richardson, did not have the greatest success the past 2 years in the college game. But now Will Levis was not as accurate as we all wanted him to be, or NFL scouts at the top of the draft board wanted him to be. So that is why I think he may slip from possibly going in the top 5 to where he may slip to the top 10, and he may slide out of the top 10. Now as we move on to my third player, we've got USC transfer from Pittsburgh wide receiver Jordan Addison. We had a lot of high hopes for the former Biletnikoff Award winner as he finished 21st in the 40-yard dash time, running a 4.59, which is stereotypically slower for a guy that you want at his size. We thought we saw on tape he had a lot of speed. Maybe so. As we all know, Jamar Chase didn't have the greatest preseason after we thought he was a can't-miss player. Obviously, he's doing great things in the league now, but a guy like Jordan Addison, I think, might slip a little bit further, but he may have his pro day to make up that speed that he did in the 40-yard dash if he so chooses to run that. Now, to my last player that I think didn't really do themselves any favors at the NFL Combine for this upcoming NFL Draft is Kayshawn Butte. Obviously, he was going to come back to LSU, but some off-the-field issues with a couple of staff members didn't really do himself any favors. Just all around, there's a lot of more red flags than there are green flags in Butte's game right now. Hopefully, he will be able to meet with some of these NFL teams at his pro day, and they'll be able to be sold on the talent that he does have on the field. But with some of these off the field issues, I do think he could possibly slide to a day 2 pick. And hopefully there are no more red flags for Keyshawn Butte, as he's obviously a true talented player. Now we're going to move to our final segment here that we like to do on Full Court Press, as my cameraman Hunter is going to have me kind of do my own very mock draft of the top 10 picks in this upcoming NFL draft, and we're going to get right to that very soon.
For the first round of the draft, the Panthers.
So I think the Carolina Panthers, they didn't obviously move up to number 1 to draft a defender or an offensive lineman. I think they moved ahead of the Houston Texans to try to get a little bit of leeway, to fake like they maybe wanted to take Bryce Young so they could maybe get a receiver like Brandon Cooks, like the Bears did, get DJ Moore from the Carolina Panthers. I do think ultimately that the Carolina Panthers, I obviously agree with a lot of the Vegas betting odds that they're going to select C.J. Stroud, the quarterback out of Ohio State, with the first overall pick. There's been a lot of reports come out from a lot of people close to the Carolina Panthers organization that C.J. Stroud has been high on their radar ever since the season ended. And I think he has the best arm in this class. I think he throws the best ball. And that's why I think the Carolina Panthers will select C.J. Stroud first overall.
The second pick from the Texans.
So the Houston Texans, I think it's going to be a no-brainer. They've had their eyes set on Bryce Young, the quarterback out of Alabama, the entire time. And with the Panthers taking C.J. Stroud, I feel very confident that the Houston Texans will take Bryce Young with their second overall pick.
The third pick from the Cardinals.
So this is where the Cardinals could probably draft best available, whoever is at the top of their board. We know Kyler Murray will be back from his injury eventually. We do not know what his time frame is when he may return to action. But the Cardinals were one of the last teams in the NFL last year in sacking the quarterback. And the best pass rusher in this class, in my opinion, is Will Anderson. There's a lot of other good pass rushers in this class, but Will Anderson is a traditional talent. He's a once-in-a-lifetime talent, and I don't think the Arizona Cardinals can go wrong here. But I think they will select Will Anderson, outside linebacker out of Alabama, with the third overall pick to help mitigate those problems they had defensively.
The fourth pick from the Colts.
So the Indianapolis Colts hired the Eagles offensive coordinator as their head coach this offseason. So I do think they are going to go quarterback here. Now, some of you may ask, well, who are they going to take? In my opinion, I think, as I mentioned earlier in this video, Anthony Richardson is going to be the pick here at number 4 for the Indianapolis Colts. I think their head coach got to get a good view, and I think he was a big part of why Jalen Hurts, a guy with a very similar build as Anthony Richardson, is having so much success now at such a young age in the league. I think Indianapolis, when they made this head coaching hire, they felt like they could get a guy like Anthony Richardson into their football team, and they could make a difference and make him into a great player, just like Jalen Hurts is.
The fifth pick from the Seahawks.
So this is where, as I mentioned earlier, that I think Jalen Carter could fit right in. Pete Carroll, as we know, has taken a lot of chances and risk in his career on players that maybe didn't have the greatest off-the-field resume. Obviously, with Jalen Carter and his most recent incident off the field, the Seahawks are in need of a lot of interior defensive linemen, just a lot of D lineman help in general. I think with Seattle having Denver's pick here from the Russell Wilson trade, this is a great opportunity, and they will be jumping for joy that they can get Jalen Carter at number 5.
The sixth pick from the Lions.
So the Detroit Lions were one of the worst teams in the league in defending the pass. They scored a lot of points this year, but they couldn't really stop anyone. They got better as the season went on. They obviously so far have high hopes that Aiden Hutchinson can keep up how he's been playing. I do think that the Detroit Lions, with this 6th overall pick, will draft who I personally think is the best cornerback in this class, in Devon Witherspoon out of the University of Illinois. I think he would be a huge help to them. He measured well at the combine, just under 6 feet, but he had great speed. He performed well in all of the drills. I think they will go with Devon Witherspoon here at the 6th overall pick.
The 7th pick from the Raiders.
So the Raiders are, with the new signing of Jimmy Garoppolo, I'm not so sure on the market for a young quarterback this year. So which is where they are in an interesting position where I think they can go best available because they need a lot of help in a lot of other places. I have them going with the talented pass rusher Tyree Wilson out of Texas Tech University. A lot of people think that Tyree Wilson is a little bit more talented and could be a better pro than Will Anderson, who I have going at number 3. But with them already having Max Crosby on one end, I think the Raiders can really bolster that defense with another pass rusher so as not as much attention is on Max Crosby. I think the Raiders go with the defensive end out of Texas Tech.
The 8th pick from the Falcons.
So the Atlanta Falcons did just most recently, when we're recording this, sign Taylor Heineke to a very short-term deal. They drafted Desmond Ridder last year in the mid-rounds. I'm not so sure that either one of them are the long-term answer. As I mentioned earlier, Will Levis has slipped a little bit on a lot of people's draft boards. I think this is a position that if the Atlanta Falcons are high on Will Levis, that they could take a chance on a guy with a lot of upside and a quarterback build like his, that they will go with a guy like Will Levis at 8.
The 9th pick from the Bears.
So with the Bears moving down to number 9, the original spot of the Carolina Panthers, they have the opportunity to go best available as they got DJ Moore, which mightily boosted their wide receiving core. They've made a lot of moves. They picked up TJ Edwards as well as Edmonds from the Bills to help out that defense as they traded away Roquan Smith in the middle of last season. I think Peter Skoronski is the best interior lineman as an offensive tackle in this class. I think he is a very true talent. He has great size. I think it would not hurt for the Bears to draft him as the best available player here at number 9 to help out Justin Fields moving forward and get him some protection.
The 10th pick from the Eagles.
So originally I would have said for Philadelphia to just go best available here, but recently, I believe today as we're recording, they did decide to let go of Pro Bowl corner, big-time play Darius Slay. I do believe that they need to assess their secondary a little bit more, as they're also going to be losing Avonte Maddox. They did re-sign James Bradbury, which I do believe helps them, but he, I believe, could be on his last legs, and which is why at the 10th pick, I have the Philadelphia Eagles selecting cornerback out of Oregon, Christian Gonzalez, which could help fill the void, and James Bradbury can kind of mentor him into a team that I believe is going to be going deep into the playoffs for years to come. This would be a huge opportunity for Philadelphia to get a piece and fill a hole that they need. And with that, that is going to complete this first episode of us talking about the NFL. We're going to have plenty more videos regarding the NFL as free agency is just getting into full swing. Please like, comment, and subscribe on this video if you would like to see more of this. If not, please give us a comment on what you think we can do better or things you would like talked about here on the channel. And with that, this has been Full Court Press.